All right, Chris, the floor is all yours. And again, everyone, welcome.
All right, thank you, Daria. Welcome all. So today we'd like to share with you some updates on our product, some general information about our product offering, some new tips and tricks. You can see my screen, Daria. Just give me a thumbs up. So yeah, a bunch of stuff to cover today. Just jump right into it. See if this video comes through.
Welcome to Bond, the leading connectivity platform for your outdoor spaces. Engineered with cutting-edge technology, Bond is designed to offer the ultimate control experience, seamlessly integrating with both your indoor and outdoor environments. With Bond, you can enjoy smart control over a variety of outdoor features, including screens, shades, louvers, heaters, ceiling fans, and even fireplaces. We work with top brands to deliver reliable and intuitive solutions. You can create groups, set schedules, run custom scenes, and control your devices from anywhere, all in one place. The Bond Home app that thousands of users love and rely on. With just the touch of a button, you can control multiple devices at once, bringing ease, automation, and convenience to your outdoor space. Bond also connects effortlessly to your preferred voice assistant or leading home control systems, such as Savant, Control4, RTI, URC, Josh AI, and many more, ensuring a smooth, hands-free experience. By choosing Bond, you're not just investing in today, you're preparing for the future of home automation. Our platform is open, dependable, and constantly evolving with over-the-air software updates. We offer advanced technology, including ultrasonic wind sensors that automatically adjust your outdoor products based on weather conditions, keeping your space responsive and protecting your investment. Whether it's closing louvers when it rains, lifting screens in strong winds, or lowering shades to block the sun, the Bond Outdoor platform intelligently adapts to your needs to safeguard your outdoor spaces and provide real-time feedback in the app. Our dedicated team of support specialists is available 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, providing live, personalized support whenever you need it. With premium design and expert engineering, Bond delivers a seamless user experience. Our passion for innovation and commitment to superior design empowers us to create the ultimate outdoor platform, allowing you to enjoy your space with greater comfort, simplicity, and beauty. Bond, where technology meets your outdoor lifestyle.
So this is our lineup of current products. We have the Bond Bridge Pro, our flagship unit, Sidekick for shades, this wall-mounted battery keypad, Breeze Pro, which is a advanced wind, rain, and sun sensor, Firefly 1, that lets you connect your low voltage lighting to the Bond Home app, and Shield Pro, which is a case intended for use with Bond Bridge Pro in outdoor installs. Bond Bridge Pro and our other products are primarily used for connecting motorized products, shades, screens, louvers, to the smart home. This is a bunch of the different brands that we support. Some of these are very well known, some of them less so, and there are a number that are not listed here. Recent additions are Alpha, Dendo, Ronco, and NVIDIA, and some we've worked with for many years, like Somfy and Rollies. So many of you are already familiar with the Bond Bridge Pro, but for those who have recently joined us as dealers, I'll hit a couple major points. Bond Bridge Pro connects to these motors over RF, primarily one-way RF. So it receives a signal from the Bond Home app over Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and then it commands those motors over one-way RF as if it were a remote control. So we emulate or copy the way that the factory remote controls work, and then we wrap that up into a user-friendly app. And we also provide drivers, or our partners provide drivers to integrate with home control systems. As I mentioned, it has both 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and an Ethernet connection, and you can do power over Ethernet. We strongly recommend using Ethernet so that you can place the Bond Bridge Pro in an ideal location for RF control without worrying about Wi-Fi range. But Wi-Fi is there to back you up in case you need it. Bond Bridge Pro can support many devices, up to 50. And we claim a 3,500 square foot range. What that means is if you're doing an indoor installation in a home, a typical kind of US style construction home, that's 3,500 square foot or smaller. One Bond Bridge Pro centrally located in the home on one of the upper floors should cover you. If your square footage of the project is larger, if you have a 4,000 square foot home and shades all around, we would recommend that you purchase 2 Bond Bridge Pros and place one on each floor. We're talking a lot about shades because shades and these other kinds of outdoor screens, motorized products, are really the fastest growing category that we're seeing. But we also support other RF controlled devices like ceiling fans, heaters, and fireplaces that may be used indoors or outdoors. The Bond Bridge Pro has a number of features that distinguish it from the consumer Bond Bridge, the black kind of hockey puck device that you may have seen. One of the distinguishing characteristics is that we provide an extended warranty of 3 years rather than the 1-year manufacturer warranty on the consumer version. And we have in-app tech support. Our tech support team is great. We're really proud of them, but they also can get kind of busy in peak hours. And we prioritize Bond Bridge Pro users over users of the consumer version. We think we deliver a great experience to everybody, but if you're on site and you really need to get on the phone with somebody to resolve a problem, we're trying to allocate resources so that we can support you with that. Shield Pro is a relatively recent addition to our line. This has no electronics in it. You could probably do this yourself with off-the-shelf boxes, but what we realized is that a number of our customers were having to place the Bond Bridge Pro outside to get it in near a pergola or gazebo or an installation like that. And it was being exposed to the elements. We didn't design Bond Bridge Pro to be directly exposed to moisture. So our dealers, maybe some people on this webinar, were drilling holes in boxes and creating those ports, and you have to use waterproof tape to put everything back together, and it takes quite a bit of time in gathering those parts. So we provide this waterproofing kit that comes with these glands of the correct size for the Ethernet and optionally the USB port to make it easy to place this outside. It has the correct affordances inside to fit the Bond Bridge Pro tightly. Comes with mounting brackets. There are no metal screws on here, so this plastic is invisible in terms of RF. You really don't want to mount Bond Bridge Pro in a metal box because it would severely limit the range. You still don't want to have it in direct sunlight. We ran some testing and found that direct sunlight is very intense, and it gets a bit too hot for comfort, especially if being used with PoE. So place it somewhere that's shaded, and we don't require Cat5 crimping. So some of the solutions for doing outdoor Ethernet will require some crimping work interior to this, but you don't need to. Here you can just feed your Cat5 cable into the box and then close down the gland. Sidekick is a product that we've had for a while now. We're now on the 3rd generation. Briefly, this is a 5-channel keypad. By default, it comes configured to control Somfy RTS motors, but you can, following the manual, you can punch in a code to convert it to talk with any of these 12 different motor technologies. In the 3rd generation Sidekick, which has been on sale now for a few months, we support 3 new technologies, specifically BOFU, Forest, Drapery Hardware, and Alpha. Alpha motors was quite requested, especially by our Australian customers. There's a whole bunch of features for Sidekick that I don't really have time to go into, but I've heard from veterans in the industry that they consider this to be one of the most versatile keypads they've run into. It can work totally standalone. You do not need a Bond Bridge Pro to use this product. It will work directly with your shades, and we encourage you to directly pair it so the system is as robust as possible. But when added with the BondBridge Pro, you get state updates in the app. So unlike when using a manufacturer remote, when using Sidekick, the state will show correctly in the app if you are using the BondBridge Pro. And there are other possibilities if you want buttons for scenes, if you want to use just a single channel with bigger buttons. All of this is possible. A lot is included in the box, and I'd encourage you to learn more on our website. Another recent addition is that our engraver partner, Laser Engraver Pro, now allows you not only to customize what you're writing, but also the color. You can, it's not shown here, but you can actually have different colors for different buttons. And when I first saw this, I thought it was, well, who would want all these different colors on their wall? But we've learned that it's a great accessibility feature. Some people find it much easier to interact with it and remember which buttons to press if there's a certain color code to it. And so if that matches your client's aesthetic, you're welcome to go with colored engraving on Sidekick. Firefly 1, we've had out for a little over a year, I believe. This is a small DC dimmer that has our Wi-Fi technology built into it. So the way this works is you have an external 12-volt DC supply, which you can acquire elsewhere or use one that may already exist in your system. And this connects to the Bond Home app over Wi-Fi, just like one of the smart fans, or kind of like the Bond Bridge would, but no bridge is required. And it shows up as a single light that you can turn on, off, or dim from 1 to 100%. And it uses PWM single-ended dimming and can operate most 12-volt DC lighting fixtures. This Firefly is really, there's many lighting solutions out there, right? If you're doing a landscape lighting project, you're unlikely to come to Bond first for doing your lighting. However, if you're doing a pergola or an outdoor space that has a number of screens where you need the Bond Home app, we've heard from a lot of dealers that you want to be able to bring everything into the same app as efficiently as possible. And so Firefly allows you to complete that system and add those lights in as part of the same in-app experience. Yes, you can adjust brightness, color temperature is not available on this particular Firefly 1, but we would love to hear from dealers using Firefly about what else you might like to see from us in outdoor or landscape lighting. It's an area we may expand, but please give us feedback. We integrate with a number of different systems. The integrations on the top of the screen here, Google, Alexa, and SmartThings, are cloud-to-cloud integrations. So this means your client talks to Google or Alexa, or they use the SmartThings app, and a signal goes from Google or Alexa's server over to our server, which then comes down from the internet into the customer's home and commands the motors to move. This is the best that we can do right now with Google and Alexa, these voice interfaces. They require cloud computing for the moment. However, many high-end homes use Control4 or other local control systems. Nice RTI URC Crestron and Josh and Savant are some of the most popular ones. And these work locally. So if you have a URC system that is going to directly talk to a BondBridge Pro or Firefly or Smart by Bond fan over the local network and does not rely on anyone's cloud. There's a couple other integrations down here we've announced before. This logo on the left is Hunter Douglas PowerView. That one is a little bit different because we're able to bring in the PowerView motors and allow you to control them from the Bond Home app. The other ones here are additional user interfaces or control systems where Bond devices can be controlled. In the last two trainings, we did demos and talked a lot about Breeze Pro. If someone has more questions about Breeze Pro, I'd encourage you to put it in the Q&A or the chat here. But essentially, this is a wind, rain, and sun sensor. So this is intended to give some peace of mind that if the manufacturer of some outdoor screens, let's say you have insect screens, say that it can support up to 35-mile-per-hour winds, after which the screens may be shredded by the wind pressure. You can leave behind this wind sensor that will trigger at, let's say, 25-mile-per-hour winds to lift those screens to help prevent damage to the system. I'll emphasize that this is not intended to protect someone's home if there's a screen attached to a pergola. That screen needs to be installed securely enough that it's not going to cause damage to the building or possible harm to anyone in a high wind condition. However, by using a wind sensor such as Breeze Pro, together with the Bond Home app, you could decrease the chances of that screen being damaged by the high wind if the user forgets to put it up or down. And that is its intended use. It can also react to rainfall and sunlight. So if you have a louvered roof, you can configure that roof to shut when it rains. And then if there's a high wind, it could open or shut depending on the manufacturer's recommendation. And again, Breeze Pro is a fairly new product, and we'd love to hear your feedback about what other features or tweaks you may like to see in a future revision of that. This is something that in engineering we're still mapping out what those updates will be. So your feedback will be taken into account. So let's talk about a couple new features that we've been working on. The first one that we're really excited about is this partnership with Vertilux. Vertilux makes a number of things, particularly indoor window treatments, and they have a line of bi-directional RF motors. So these are the first motors that we're communicating with bi-directionally. You may be aware that we have supported bi-directional Duya motors and the bi-directional Rolle's Acmeta motors for quite some time. However, the way that we have controlled those motors to date has been by emulating a remote control and just sending a signal from the bridge to the motor, and that's it. We don't hear a response. So this can work quite reliably, but you don't have that peace of mind of knowing that the motor actually moved. And if the factory remote control is used, you don't get feedback. Well, with Vertilux bidirectional motors, we now have true bidirectional communication. What you're seeing in this animation here on the right of the screen is what the slider control in the Bond app now looks like when using with a true bidirectional motor. You command it to 62%, and then you see that gray bar moving, which hopefully is clear here, that's representing the actual position of the motor. So the motor tells us when it starts moving, it tells us when it stops moving, and that allows us to give feedback to the user about the actual position of the motor. If that motor's battery is dead, or if that motor is not responding for any other reason, you will get an error here, and that animation will not occur. You can also, in the settings, get feedback as to the signal strength. That's actually not shown, but it has been added to the app recently, and battery status. So this makes it, this battery feedback is really useful when you look at the whole installation. You have many motors in the home running on batteries, and can allow for more efficiently going around and charging them. Maybe you only need to recharge the ones on the south-facing side of the building because they've been used more frequently, and you can know that by looking at the battery level. We have a dedicated screen in the app that will show the products with low battery to facilitate charging. I should mention that Vertilux has a broad range of products. Some of their motors are not bidirectional, they are unidirectional, and They use a different communication technology, and we support that one as well. We very recently announced a partnership with Mecho Shade. They are really one of the leaders in commercial shading. They're very active in multi-dwelling unit installations like apartment buildings. And they are also used on some residential installs. Mecho uses primarily wired motors. They're wired for both power and communication. And Mecho supplies, they supply hubs that connect those wired motors to an Ethernet network. So Mecho dealers are now able to order a kit from Mecho that takes that wired Mecho system and brings it into the Bond app. So all of the integrations that we have and all of these features in the app are now available for Mecho installs. More information about this you can get by reaching out to Mecho directly. This is exclusively available through Mecho for Mecho dealers. Vantage Lighting by Legrand recently announced that they have integration with BondBridge Pro. So as you see here, Vantage makes a number of attractive keypads. The choice of control system is sometimes dependent on what kind of user interface the customer wants in their home. And they may have an existing lighting system. You can now pull in the shades into Vantage Lighting. You can reach out to Legrand for more information on how that works. Just a few days ago, we announced that we are integrating with Infratech. Infratech makes outdoor heaters, like shown on the picture here, that can make an outdoor space more comfortable, kind of a 3-season space or a 4-season space if you're in a warmer climate than New Jersey here. The way this works is we partnered with Infratech to make a switch and a dimmer that get installed in the wall. It looks like a light switch, but it controls the heaters. It works with Infratech's control boxes. And these switches have Bond Wi-Fi technology inside, Smart by Bond technology, which allow it to come directly into the Bond Home app. No BondBridge Pro is required. As you can see in the picture here, this shows up as a heater. It does not show up as a light, as some kind of workarounds in the past. These heaters would show up as lights because you may have used a light switch, a smart light switch to control that heater. We now represent this appropriately in the app. You can dim the heaters if it is using a dimmable universal control panel. And there is a 2-hour safety switch where after 2 hours of no interaction, it shuts down the heater. That's to comply with the code in most jurisdictions in the US. So Infratech will be shipping these May 2025. So iOS from Apple is constantly evolving. And some time ago, we supported widgets in iOS. Widgets being a way of controlling Bond devices from without going into the Bond Home app. Apple recently with iOS 18, they got rid of the old way that widgets worked and they created a whole new widget interface. And what's being shown on the right here is what this new widget interface looks like. So you can create widgets in a number of different formats. You can control scenes, you can control individual devices. We do not currently have group control, but you can achieve many device control through scenes or individual like ceiling fan or light control from the widgets. This is more convenient than opening up the app and navigating around for common devices you may control a lot. So we have added 2 new motor technologies in the Bond Home app for use with the BondBridge Pro. Those are Screen Innovations Nino and Shade Revolution, which is a new shading venture. And these both work with our current Sidekick. If you are using Sidekick with these motor technologies, you just have to reach out to us for which menu code to use. So these are new on the market, so do let us know your feedback if you are using these with Bond. Okay, lastly, I'd like to share a couple best practices that my team here has prepared based on interactions with dealers and end users in customer service. These are tips for trying to get you, to be a little bit more successful in installs. So ultimately, if you have a 3-story house, like is shown here, this large house, you may end up with 3 Bond Bridge Pros, as we show in this image. But while you're setting up a large home like this, there may be a little bit of uncertainty as you're setting it up. If you have any trouble pairing with a new motor, whether it's a range problem because this motor is all the way on the other side of the building, or if there's some kind of problem like you haven't picked the right motor technology, it can also be a little bit confusing in setup, especially if you're on the phone with our customer service team, to know if the Bond Bridge Pro is transmitting or not, because the transmission you'll see by that blue ring flashing, whereas you need to be in the same room as the shade to see if it's jogging. So what we recommend is bringing the Bond Bridge Pro into the room that you're setting up so that you can see the Bond Bridge Pro light, you can see the shades, and you can eliminate range as a possible problem. So you get a successful setup and make sure that you can reliably control those shades in that room with the Bond Bridge Pro. And then if you need to set up the next room, you can unplug the Pro and bring it into the next room. Even if you want to ultimately use Ethernet, wired Ethernet for control of the Pro as we recommend, you can use Wi-Fi for the purpose of doing this multi-room setup. And this is a best practice that a number of our dealers have used and we've kind of come up with in customer support that has worked really well. You don't have to do this, but if you're having any trouble in the pairing, carrying that Bond Bridge Pro around with you as you do the setup seems to work pretty well. And once everything is paired, you may find a single central location where you can control all of the shades. Again, if you have a job larger than 3,500 square foot, you'll want to use multiple bridges, likely one per floor as shown here. Here, I just want to note 2 supports that we have for you in pairing devices, particularly ceiling fans. This also applies to motorized shades, but what I'm showing here is more about ceiling fan support. There are so many different models and manufacturers of ceiling fans out there, and they use many different remote controls. And unlike in shades, ceiling fans, there's not a consistent mapping between the brand of the fan and a certain RF control protocol. It's kind of like zoology. There's many different animals out there. So the solution that we use is that we've added all these ceiling fan protocols and a number of shade protocols into a database. And the Bond Home app will ask you to record the remote. So this is what you get if you go into ceiling fan and you say add, it will ask you to press a button on the remote control. Or if you go into add a shade and then you don't pick any of the technologies in the list, you say other, it will ask you to record the remote control so we can see if this is a signal we have in our database. Now, I just want to emphasize, if you're using Somfy or Rollies or NVIDIA or any of these technologies that are on that main technology list, you just pick it there. But if it's another one, we see this like with shades that people get off Amazon or with basically any ceiling fan, you'll be asked to record the remote. So you record the remote signal, and then we look it up in our database. If we find it, we give you a panel of buttons for controlling all the different speeds and lighting controls on your ceiling fan. And this works most of the time. If it's not in our database, you have the option of recording individual buttons. We also have a page on our website, bondhome.io/supported devices, where you can input the FCC ID off of the back of a remote control. Remotes, really any product that transmits more than a minuscule amount of RF energy in the United States is required to have an FCC ID printed on it, or otherwise available in a label. Oh, it will be on the back of the remote. You won't see this on the camera, but on the back of the remote controls, there should be an FCC ID. Every once in a while, you find some that don't comply, like this one. But it will have that ID number. And that is very useful because that ID is tied to how that communicates over the air. And that's a good way for you to be able to check if a particular ceiling fan or fireplace or shade remote is supported on our system. We try to keep this database up to date, but there are literally thousands of different remotes, and many are compatible that are not found in our system. Still, this has been much requested by dealers that we have some kind of lookup tool, and so we have made this available. Again, your feedback is always appreciated. You can just reach out to our customer service team as well if you have any doubts. Lastly, I'd like to share some tips about managing shade groups and schedules for certain motor technologies. This is in response to an ongoing issue that we have. So let me give a little bit of background. Certain motor technologies like RTS, Gaposa, and Bofu, they can work very reliably, but they don't natively support a set position signal. So the way it works, like on a Somfy remote, you have an up, or here's a Bofu remote, you have an up, down, and a stop button. The end user is able to set any position they want using that handheld remote by pressing up, waiting until the shade reaches the desired position, and then tapping on stop. But there is no signal in this protocol that has the meaning of go to 47%. So in the Bond app, we either have to just show open, close, stop, or we need to, if we're going to give a slider or give the ability to ask your voice assistant or control system to set a particular percentage, we need to time the stop signal being sent precisely to basically simulate someone pressing on the stop button after a certain period of time. And we've had this feature for quite a while for RTS. This is where it asks you to calibrate your shade during setup. And I just should note that what I'm talking about here, the issue I'm talking about, only applies to these shades where you have to, quote unquote, calibrate the shade. So Vertilux, Rollies, Amp, Mecho, these technologies have a native set position signal, and what I'm discussing here does not apply. So here's the problem. When you're operating many devices at once with set position, like if you have a group and you have the slider to set an entire group to a particular position, or you're using a scene, or you have schedules on multiple devices for the same time, the timing of the stop signals, they like all need to be sent at the same time, and they end up, the timing of the stop signals is not as tight as it needs to be. And the result is that those shades don't land in the positions that they are supposed to be in, and it either looks messy or the timing is so off that the shades just, some of them don't open, or they move to the wrong positions. And it can be kind of disappointing. It will work fine when you're using an individual shade control, but when you go to the group or scene or schedules, it becomes a problem. So there's a couple workarounds that we have for still getting a nice result. One is to use a smaller group. We found that groups of less than 6 shades perform better with the set position slider. You can also decide that the position setting, while it would be nice, is not really strictly required. And if it's not working well, you can go into the devices and disable the set position feature. So you go into device settings, advanced, edit controller, and disable position. Then the user just has open and close actions for the shades, and that sets a lower expectation. There's not this tempting slider control. That doesn't work so well. Lastly, if you really want to set position on these shades, you can try 1-minute intervals between schedules so that the timing will, that the stop signals won't interfere with each other. So this is something that we're still looking to find a better solution. Ultimately, it comes down to a limitation that there is not a way to send a single signal to tell these motors to go to the desired position. And yeah, bear with us while we sharpen our pencils on this one. So at this time, we're happy to take any questions.
We have some in the chat. Chris, do you want to go through them?
Sure. So Jason asked if BondBridge Pro works with Somfy Zigbee. The answer is yes, but you do need another box. So there is a product from Screen Innovations called Troy, or I should say Troy 2. And Troy 2 allows you to connect Somfy Zigbee motors to the smart home. This is Troy 2 plus their Helen controller is like an alternative way of managing a Somfy Zigbee network. So you would not use Tahoma. This is, you'd use the Screen Innovation solution for controlling the Somfy Zigbee motors. We have an integration with the Troy 2 that allows to then pull in all of the Troy 2 motors into the Bond Home app. So this is not a one-box solution, but it does allow you to bring in those Zigbee motors. So if you prefer our user interface, or if you have a mix of different shade technologies in the home, that could be a good way to do it. I see that Basile here asks about using multiple BondBridge Pros. Yeah, so multiple BondBridge Pros, that's a good question. We're pretty proud of the way that the multiple bridges work in our app. It is totally transparent to the user once it's set up. So as a dealer or as an installer, at the time of install, you're choosing which bridge you want to add a particular motor to. Subsequently, the user just asks to operate that device, and the bridge on which that device has been set up will make the transmission. The user's not really aware of which bridge it's on. What you can do, and what I strongly recommend, is to do backups of both of those bridges. And if you want to move a device from one bridge to the other, you can usually do that by restoring the backup. I say usually because this only works on shades that do not use a rolling code. So with Alpha and Somfy RTS, you'd be out of luck in moving it between bridges. With the other technologies, you should be able to restore the backup. BondBridge Pro and BondBridge do not work with HomeKit. We have had a beta, and that continues to be available for native HomeKit integration. But we're not pushing it because we haven't gotten really great performance out of it. There is an indirect way to work with HomeKit that seems to be more successful for users, judging on feedback on our forums, using something called a home bridge. And HomeKit installations, very often, if you want to bring everything into Apple Home, very often installers end up using Homebridge to bring in devices that do not natively support HomeKit, and that is what we're seeing a lot of installers use. In terms of Lutron integration, I see Tom asking about hardwired RF or Lutron RAW3. So we have, and I understand exactly where that question's coming from. So we have a way to integrate with Lutron Picos, but those hardwired RF controls and the Radio RAW3 that uses the new Clear Connect Type X is not something that the BondBridge Pro has been able to talk to. We do, however, offer a way to work with HomeWorks. So Lutron HomeWorks, their higher end system, is now able to talk to the BondBridge Pro. There is something called Ethernet commands, and you can put hex codes into the Ethernet commands. This has been a kind of a dark art until recently. It's been possible for a long time, but there's this long string of hex commands that need to be loaded into HomeWorks, and it's been very difficult to figure out what exactly those numbers need to be. So we now have a feature, and this is documented, something that we can share out here, or maybe Gizu, you could put it in the chat for the benefit of Tom and others. We now have a hex code interface on the BondBridge Pro where you can pull up on your computer this little web interface, and you can pick the scene, group, or device and what command you want to execute. And it will give you hex codes that you can copy and paste right into Lutron Designer to get your homework system to control Bond devices. So if you have a Lutron install and you've got this skylight that needs a Somfy RTS motor, and you want to be able to move it from that hardwired keypad or from your RAW3 keypad, you can now do this if you have HomeWorks. You can link that button on the wall in HomeWorks to that hex code, and it will command the BondBridge Pro. Just reading Chris's question here. So moving from the older Bond to the Pro, does it bring any different support in ceiling fans or fireplaces? The answer there would be no. So the BD1000 and the BD1750, that is the consumer version of the bridge, and the Pro version currently have exactly the same support for ceiling fans and fireplaces. So unfortunately, upgrading to the Pro does not get you that additional device support. Yeah, I see asking about the upper and lower lights. The uplight and downlight on ceiling fans is a really awesome feature. We are working with a number of different ceiling fan manufacturers, and you will see up and down light ceiling fans on the market that have Bond Wi-Fi built in. But unfortunately, yeah, for that like Emerson ceiling fan with up and down light, if it's not currently supported in the Bond app, it's unlikely to be added if that's like a legacy fan from some time ago. Any other questions? See a question from John about Norman Automate. Daria, are you familiar with Norman? I am not.
I don't know off the top of my head what their motor technologies are. They may have one that's their own. So we'll have to get back to you, I think, on that question.
So yeah, on that note, I just want to thank probably some people on the call here who have relationships with these various shade companies who've put in a good word for Bond. Very often we hear from our partners from manufacturers of shade motors or shades that their dealers are asking for Bond, and that makes them very open to work with us and making that integration happen. So if there's a motor technology that you're used to using that is not currently compatible, have a conversation with your supplier, and we may be able to make something happen. Think Chris Butler asked a question I did not cover. That's great. Sidekick is really flexible. You can make each of these channels 1 through 5, operate different motor technologies. So you can make number 1 operate a Somfy motor, number 2 operate a Rollies motor, number 3 could be nice, and 4 and 5 could be more Rollies motors. And if you select all 5 of those channels and you press up, you're going to see the Somfy motor move, then you're going to see the 3 Rollies motors move, and then you're going to see the nice motor move. So it will send all of the signals that it needs to on different frequencies, different motor technologies. Yes, you can mix and match in the same unit. Anything else you wanted to share, Daria?
I just want to thank everyone for their time today and for their great questions. And as Chris said, you've given us the opportunity to expand our support network and to integrate products because you've asked us to. So continue to do that.